comfortable. So if you want to at any point switch your camera off, that's fine. I'm here. I'm in the background. I'll be, even when I'm not on camera, I will be here. I'll be watching the chat. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free put that in the chat, or you're welcome to message me privately through the chat if you don't want to put it in the main chat. And I will either, if I need to interrupt Lorna because it's important, we clarify something, I'll do that, or I may hold on to the questions until we have a space and ask Lorna specifically, or I'll help you with anything. I'll help you with the technical side of things as much as I possibly can. But, you know, with the breakout rooms, and if you're having any problems, yeah, like I said, whether either privately or in the group chat, please feel free to message me. I think that's everything. With the breakout rooms, you're not obliged to join them. So you'll have a message will pop up, and I think you'll have an option to join the room. What will happen is you'll all get automatically put into rooms, but I may just move you around. If I don't want anyone to end up by themselves. So if some people haven't joined a breakout room, I might just have to shift things around a bit. But then you'll probably, I think we've said about 12 minutes in a breakout room. So I'll try and do that as quickly as possible. And I think that's everything, Lorna.
Brilliant.
Have I forgotten anything?
No, that's perfect, Zena. Thank you. Thank you for your support, and welcome everyone today. And we've got some more people dropping in there. I'm wondering if even in the chat. So this is a pro extrovert group as well. So if the thought of speaking out loud terrifies you, please pop it in the chat. And Zena is really good at relaying that to the group. So it'd be great to hear where you are in the country or not in the country, and just pop that in the chat. And also, as a group today, we all have a similar interest. So any knowledge that you have, anything that comes to mind, please pop it in the chat, because this group of people will be really interested in hearing that and sharing. We've got a lot of wisdom between us all here. So let's share that today, and we can all learn from each other. So that'll be really useful. So just as we begin and as we arrive, I'm going to ask us just to right now put the pencils down. I know we're sort of back to school weather. Put the pencils down, and let's just take a minute's silence right now. Make yourself as comfortable as you can, eyes open or closed, just from right now. So slowly letting that go, maybe deepening your inhalation. I'd invite you to maybe roll your shoulders, wiggle your toes, just coming back in the space. And again, just asking yourself, is there anything that you can do right now to feel more comfortable? And I'm going to invite you to do that. We're going to just jump into the presentation. And we'll be jumping in and out of PowerPoint and not PowerPoint, because it can be a bit much. So when we work with the body, it brings up a lot for everybody. This is our clients and ourselves. So today, really getting the mirror and turning it back on you. So really noticing yourself and what's going on as well. So I'd like you right now just to notice where your own energy's at. I don't know what sort of week you've had. You might have been on a beach somewhere for a week. Or maybe it's Saturday morning and the lights have gone and it's suddenly October and gone cold. So just notice, are you feeling tired? Maybe hungry? Do you need a drink? What's your blood pressure like? Do you need to go to the toilet? Please just notice a little bit of what you need. And just for a moment, just check in with your breath. So making yourself as comfortable as you can, right now, maybe sitting back. Just take the breath that you need. Just take a breath and notice where your breath is. Is it maybe higher, lower, shallower? Just noticing where your breath is. And let's all breathe together. So let's all inhale together. Exhale. And we'll do that again. Inhale. Exhale. Just wiggle your toes. Have a little move about just to feel grounded. So when we do work with the body, it brings up a lot for our clients and us. So we may get shame, anxiety, all of our other stuff is very powerfully linked to when we work with the body. So I'm going to ask you to have some compassion for yourself today and just take a moment to think of, if something does come up for you, who might you need to speak to after this workshop, later today, tomorrow, Monday? If you're going to write anything down, just to get it out of your head, out of your body, but who's that person that you may need to speak to? Also, the pace of today is quite bouncy because I'm really enthusiastic and obsessed with this whole subject matter. And I sort of would love to teach you everything, 25 years of my work in it in 3 hours. So I have to give myself a little bit of compassion that I'm not going to be able to do that. However, what I am going to give you is lots of bursts of energy around certain subjects. And also I'm going to send you a reading list. And if there's any threads that you like the sound of, oh, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in this, follow them up, pick the threads up, know that's some connection with you, that you're interested in that. And also, you know, very much we're all here today for our professional roles. Yeah, that can often be a real defense, especially when we're working with the body, client's body, and noticing our own bodies as well. So I just want you just to take a moment to think about right now, where does your body want to be right now? And you can unmute and say this, or you can pop it in the chat. I'll just pop, I don't know if we can see the chat. Where does your body want to be right now? I'll tell you where I want to be right now. Well, I am here, but I wish we were all in a room together that was full of light, a big white room, full of light. You were on your chair and you had a yoga mat under your feet, whether you use it or not. And it's this big white room and it's warm and there's blankets and we could all be there for a full day, not 3 hours. That's where I'd like to be.
So Lorna's saying, Lorraine saying lying on the sofa, lying on us would like to be lying on her sofa. And Katrina, a warm beach, where her body wants to be. I'm feeling that the change in weather is making me really, really crave some sun. In nature somewhere. Kate's agreeing with you, Lorna. Would love for us to be in a place, and Samantha as well, in a physical location together.
Yes.
In warm, clear water, Judy, or maybe a mountaintop wrapped up warm from Samantha as well. Sarah's in her happy place in Cumbria already.
Oh, great.
I'd like to be on a beach.
On a beach.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that, Ruth, definitely.
So just noticing that, where you want to be and what you need, and how you might be able to get a little bit closer to that during this. Maybe that's grabbing the blanket, the drink, or just visualizing that space for what you might need later on today after this session. Okay, so thank you for that. So the aim of today very much is for mental health professionals, that there is you'll know some of the information, but also some new content that you're going to be able to integrate into your current clinical practice. And we also have a wonderful mixed group here of people who are yoga teachers, coaches, people working in other healing professions. And the aim here is that there is some information that is going to help your work become more trauma informed. I'm sure it already is already. However, this is about taking some little diamonds that we're going to pick up and how can we integrate this into our work. And also, I just want to highlight that we've got groups of people here. How many have you got in the party now? 20. Okay, so we've got 20 people together, and you know, we've got a similar interest. There's an overlap here in our work, so it's really to hold that in mind. When I've been doing these workshops in the past have been in separate spaces. Over the last year, since lockdown, and we've gone online, it's bringing people together. Okay, so the yoga teachers, the coaches wanting to be more trauma informed, the therapists wanting to understand how to work more with the body, and that's online and in person. So a little bit about me. I'm a psychotherapist, and I am slightly obsessed with working with body awareness and embodiments, somatic work. I'm also a yoga teacher, and I'm a trauma sensitive or trauma informed yoga teacher. I was a regular yoga teacher for a long time before that. And then it didn't feel so safe. So I've trained in this, and I now deliver yoga for the NHS, for the Recovery College, for Changing Minds, for people who are groups, really hard to reach groups. And I absolutely love it. And the last 2 weeks I've started working with the groups again, and it's just the best thing I do all week. So again, I work really with the body. My area is body, breath, and movement, and then pinning science onto that. And I train people. So I really love training people. Usually people come on these workshops and then say, oh, will you come and train my group, which is fantastic. Work with Metanoia, Fascia, Wimbledon Guild, lots of other people. And I have a YouTube channel called The Mind Movement that some of you may have seen. And I post lots of free resources on there. I speak so I do media for UKCP. So I do work with Sky. I've written a book with the Samaritans. I even did some stuff on Geordie Shore. So lots of spaces, especially to get people into therapy. And my background, just so you know, is I'm a producer from the video games and TV industry. So a lot of tech and creative stuff. And I'm also dyslexic, so neurodiverse. So I'm more on the visual side. And a lot of my clients, I don't really put it out there that much, but I do attract a lot of neurodiverse clients and people from the LGBTQ community, more of a diverse group. So today we are going to do a little bit of a check-in and breathing. We're going to look at the body and what is body awareness. We're going to have a little bit of a movement break. We're going to look at the breath, specifically the ANS and the vagus nerve. And I'm putting spirit in there, boom, because we can. And the breath is the doorway to the nervous system, and that gets us to spirit. Okay, we're going to move, and then we're going to look at some counter-transference and do some movement as well. So there's going to be lots of breaks, but the aim really is to illuminate working with the body in therapy. We're going to be looking at non-verbal phenomena and counter-transference, right? So from the get-go, we are moving from what's in the unconscious and bringing it into consciousness. What is she talking about here, you're asking? So that's what we're going to be working with. So again, just checking in with yourself right now, checking in with your body, any sensations, any feelings that you may be noticing, okay, and what might be going on for you. Okay, so what is body awareness? So usually in the past, I would very much start with maybe the early 20th century when we talk about the body. However, our lives changed, the world has changed. And I just want you to take a moment to look at this slide, the images here, because our professions have changed. So we're working online in the timeline. So I'm going from sort of end of February, March 2020, we're working online. Lots of social movements, Black Lives Matter, race, okay, gender, how we work with gender, diversity. We were locked at home. We've all had to change how we worked, okay? So just noticing how that's impacted our bodies. This is about bodies. And also it's interesting, I update this slide every month when I do the workshop. Now, if you go to the other side, now we're back at raves. I haven't been to one in a while, but the clubs are open. That's a picture of Heathrow Airport. You would have seen it on the news. Other things going on that is impacting our work. It's all over the media around the safety of women and diverse groups in society. Okay, and also I want to highlight about the body and really in the work, I will talk about conflict. In psychotherapy and in therapy, they always fall out. Okay, so this one will fall out with that one. It's not new, it happens. It still happens. But I will be highlighting the conflicting forces of mind and body. So I also just want to highlight here about within our own community. Is our community diverse as a group? Are we diverse? Can we look at ourselves as a group? Are we diverse? We're not. We're not great at being diverse. Yes, it's starting to be spoken about, and only now the books are being published. And it was really interesting in lockdown. Dr. Dwight Turner, so you may recognize him from social media, and I have to recommend his book Mockingbird. He asked therapists, he had posted this picture of himself, the one with the cross around his neck, and someone had said, oh, you look more like a bouncer than a therapist. So, which is racist. And he actually asked therapists to post pictures of who they really are. And there's something, and you know, this guy with a Mohican, there's a woman with a pushchair pushing a buggy, you know, just brilliant. And all these pictures popped up. So I would like, you know, this has changed in our community as well. And people speaking about this, what are you doing differently now? How are you showing up differently as a therapist with what's gone on? And also very much over this timeline, bodies are different. Suddenly we wouldn't speak intimately about our body. I wouldn't talk to someone about, I don't know, if I'd had a miscarriage or if something had gone, you know, so really intimate stuff. Then suddenly our bodies are data. There's no boundary, how people would speak about, and still do, about and it moves every month, speaking about the vaccine. Have you got this? And there's more splitting going on there. So we have to look at this modern history right now. And I'm really interested in what's changed for you in your work. And we're going to this is really, really important. We're going to just do a breakout now. Zena, is that okay to hit the magic button?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just being mindful and respectful of each other. We've only got about 2 minutes each. So if somebody starts, you know, creatively banging on a bit, you can just pull them back and just say, we've only got 2 minutes each to go back. So what's changed for you over this time? And it'll be different for everyone. Okay. So Zena's going to send us off here.
I apologize. I've just hit a block straight away. Just bear with me. Sorry.
Okay. So, you know, what's changed? It might be in how you're presenting, how you're working. Are you even going to go back? Are you not going to pay room rent anymore? There's many different levels. Are your clients from all over the world? There's lots. With the impact of what's happened, how is this changing? How has it changed you, how you're working? Positive and negative, or whatever that spectrum is.
Okay. Sorry, I'm talking without unmuting myself. So in the next sort of 20 seconds, everyone will be popping back in.
Great. So again, can I invite you to do whatever you need to do to feel more comfortable right now? What do you need to do to feel more comfortable? Run deep, nice inspo there on the shoulders. Yeah. What do we need to do? So when everyone comes back. Go and get a cuppa. Brilliant. Go and get one. If you need a cuppa, get a cuppa. Someone's just put that, Maria, in the chat there. Great. Are we all back in the house now, Zena?
Yeah.
We're all back. Okay. Now, thank you for that. And I'm wondering it would just be great to hear a little bit of this, what you heard in the group, what was useful, share what changed. What's changed? Be great to hear a voice.
I can jump in.
Thank you.
I think we covered a couple of topics. One was looking at what has changed is both our proficiency and our anxiety with technology. I think in equal measure.
Yeah.
The understanding of how much connection and contact and isolation any one of us can handle and can wants to introduce into our lives. And then we also had a conversation about touch and actually how it's become a much more conscious thing of whether you like to touch or whether you like to be touched, and how you go about that with kind of in passing with kind of your normal day-to-day work, and how that comes in. So I think that was kind of our 3 different areas that we touched upon.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Thank you. Anyone else? I'd love to hear. I would love to hear.
I feel like if I was to tie up what was said in my group by different people, that like everyone's become more present despite like technological factors. Like everyone's become more present with themselves and in interaction with other people, and through that they're bringing new ways forward as well.
That's great to hear. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
I'm happy to share a couple. There seems to be some shift back to face, but also perhaps more blended work going forward. Also, the pandemic brought access to more learning opportunities as teachers and providers became more innovative. So for some people, it's been a big growth in learning without having to travel everywhere for everything all of the time.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you for that. Anyone else? I'd love to hear.
Hi, Lorna.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say that I've been really surprised at how much the body actually translates across the screen, which I've been really, really pleased about. So,
yes.
So I was saying in the group that I always ask my clients to show this area of their body and their head so that I can look at their breath, and I notice a lot around their breath and tension they're holding, and I'm very surprised at the energy that comes through the screen.
The energy that comes through the screen.
Yeah, the energetic kind of quality of that individual. So all the kind of your felt sense, that sort of thing that come through as well. So that's been really helpful because I think the pandemic's allowed me to do a lot more sort of exploration on, do more training basically. So
fantastic. I'm so glad you said that, because I remember when this happened and it was early March or whenever we'd gone online, and I thought, oh God, this has all gone to pot. It won't work on the internet. And I had one client in particular. He was not the first one online, but with body work. And I felt this thing in my neck, and I hadn't felt anything like this since I was working with people in person. And I thought, oh, is this mine? Is this his? And I had to be really brave and bring that in. And it was his, thank the Lord. So, and that was a real, like you say, that energy. And also someone said something really interesting once, that he was a gentleman who trained with the Samaritans a long time ago. And it's taken him back to that listening, staying connected, that you can do the work, whether it's online or on the phone. Yeah, and I just want to, Zena, I might need your help with this around the impact of Black Lives Matter, and we're talking about bodies and race.
Sorry, I'm muted again.
It's okay. Just to if you could throw some light on this for the group, that would be really useful.
Yeah, so COVID coincided with the murder of George Floyd and a lot more conversations around race. So it's also been a period for a lot of people of colour to potentially, some of them for the first time, start to process racial trauma and having maybe the confidence to start to speak a bit more about these things in spaces. And yet the spaces weren't always ready. So that's definitely impacted people, and I was personally impacted by that. But also on the positive side, was for the first time able to process and kind of work through that with a therapist that was confident enough to bring it into the room, even when I wasn't. So I'm also a founder of the Counsellor Staff Room. I really do try and kind of promote people to educate themselves and fill in the gaps that was missing from our training, because with a lot of the work around that, there's basically potential for therapists to focus purely on maybe the physical sensations, and if they're not also holding that person's individual experience, which has not just impact from, you know, family and friends, but like societal impact in terms of oppression and institutionalized racism, that if that isn't held in some way in the room, there's real potential to racially gaslight clients if you are just kind of concentrating on the physical but not acknowledging that it might not be theirs, it's not their fault, it's not something they're doing. Not that we ever do blame clients for that, but yeah, so and there's been so much great stuff out there. Again, we've had so much opportunity because of lockdown to attend courses that we might not be able to, so there's been a lot of opportunity. And this month there'll be a lot more. It's Black History Month, so there's lots of things out there to help clients. Really, honestly, the only way I can personally describe it is to retrain myself, because my initial training just didn't really acknowledge a huge part of that, well, many areas of diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zena. Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Does anyone else want to say anything around any other areas of diversity or anything that may have been missed? I know for me, I now have clients from all over the world. That's positive. I've chosen not to pay people who charge greedy prices for room rent and connect with other spaces. There's a lot in this time, a lot more people from the trans community I'm working with or are coming to the yoga. I'm noticing this a lot more just in my spaces. Anyone else noticed any changes?
Hi, for us, there's been a big change. I work for a charity, Basingstoke Counselling Service, and they have a number of counsellors that work under that umbrella.
Yeah.
And we've just introduced compulsory training for all of our counsellors on working with interpreters. And we are reaching out to the Hindu communities and all of those, and we'll be working, all of us will be taking on clients that don't have English as their first language, which I think is a major change and a major breakthrough.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you all for sharing. And again, it's very important that, I know we're going to dive into the history, but looking at this, what we've just all been sharing and discussed, because these are massive changes for how we work, our bodies, our clients' bodies, what we're noticing here in the energy still works online. What's working for us? Are we showing up now not looking like a therapist? Are we wearing our trainers, you know, when we go to therapy rather than the suit jacket, you know, or whatever that is? Just being a bit more human, Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for that. Just notice what might come up. And I also want you to hold in mind what clients are coming to you in thought, or your physically, you might be experiencing it or having a little bit of a flashback of a client. So what I'd like you to hold in mind when we're talking about body awareness, and it's a huge subject, right? So it wasn't, yes, Bezel is brilliant. Everyone here has probably read the Bezel book or has it on the shelf and has a little flick through. What's happened with Bezel is amazing, because Bezel connected with neuroscience and made what we're doing now credible. So before Bezel, even Babette Rothschild, it did make me laugh. She was on a video call and she said, well, before Bezel's book, or anyone who worked with body were just seen as a bunch of hippies, a bunch of woo-woo hippie therapists. And it's actually true, right? So Bezel has brought the neuroscience. However, I'm going to just pin it back to therapy, science, and some conflict that's gone on there. And Bezel isn't without these conflict with these EDMR and MDMA. See, I get them mixed up. That's the dyslexia. They are quite similar, right? So he's not without conflict. So with the body, we are, as the lady mentioned earlier, about energy. So I'd like you to, when you're thinking of clients for the next couple of hours in your work, energy. Now, energy isn't just like a lightning strike and thought, right? It's also the lack of energy, anxiety, depression, and it can be no energy. So for me, my experience of this is when I have been in the presence of a dead body and there's nothing there. There's no spirit, there's no breath, there's no body. And then in different clients, how we notice this can come up, depression, low energy, and it's pace, gestures, start, stop, eye contact, breath, the walk. I have one client who, when he's not well, he's only a young man, and it's like he's had a stroke, one side of his body, dragging his leg, his shoulder. Or how we know, these are our clients' words. I'm going to be pinning these words in history, but our clients now talk about the numbness. Please put anything in the chat that is relevant here. What do your clients say? A deadness. I feel numb, frozen. What are the words that your clients are using? Judy looks like she's typing something exciting in, right? And also at the minute, please put it in, Judy. Zena will let me know what it is, or everyone can read it. And also at the minute, the interest in this area is fantastic. And I'm thrilled a bit, but often people are just wanting to, as if I'm going to give them some magic answer, you know, and say, but where is trauma held in the body? And as if there's some intervention where you just go, bing, and it's gone. It's not like that. It's like the layers of an onion, the layers of the earth. It's layers of work. There's not magic. It's not one fix. Okay. So holding this in mind, think about your clients, notice your client. And I'm going to invite you, rather than holding the clients or the visual in mind, can you write it down or scribble something? Get it out of your body. Get it out of your body. So we're going to step back and look at phenomenology first. So a quick little recap on phenomenology. So Edmund Husserl, he brought phenomenology as a radical new way of doing philosophy. And this was, I think his book was published 1901, the first one. So let me keep it super simple first before I bring the conscious unconscious in. A phenomenon, something is happening. Think about a client, think about a movement. The obvious one would be the tapping foot, the rubbing of the shoulder, the yawn, the sneeze, the cough. Yeah. Think about that happening in the room with your client, what's coming to mind. And then that has two brackets around it, like that picture there. It is bracketed in time. We take no assumptions of what it is. Oh, maybe she's tired. Maybe he's tired. Yeah, no. And we then bring that into consciousness, bringing that into our awareness and then the awareness of the client. So it's the phenomenon that is happening in the present moment, the phenomenon that is originating from the body. So it is a method, it's a method that is describing what is going on, but holding the assumptions about it. Okay. And we are then moving from something that is existing in the unconscious or subconscious and bringing it into conscious awareness to be potentially, not always, worked with the client. So it's a shift from unconscious. And for me, I believe very firmly that your whole body, our whole bodies are our unconscious. So if I've got a pain in my neck, what's going on? If my back's sore, your whole body is your unconscious right now. Just think about that. What's going on for you right now? Okay. And phenomenology also spoke a lot about the self. So what is the self? So the self is the mental individual from which all mental acts issue are only ever presented to us indirectly, okay? And by deeply and profoundly inquiring into the witness of all knowledge, this specific philosophical inquiry opens up into contemplative awareness. And I'm hearing the lady earlier, and because my screens, I didn't get the name, the lady who mentioned energy. Don't know if so it's the lady who mentioned energy. This is what we're talking about. Something is happening, even over Zoom, and coming into awareness. Now, one of Husserl's students called Maurice Merleau-Ponty. He's the main guy with the body work, okay? And he stated that we do not have bodies, rather we are our body. We are in the world through our body, and insofar as we perceive the world with our body. This might seem, quite obvious right now, where we are in 2021. However, then this was hugely controversial between the philosophical circles, scientific circles, medical circles. This was really the unspoken, because and also you'll notice a lack of women in this work, that where possible, I bring the women forward. So Maurice, his work's great. However, female critics at the time did accuse him that this is about a male description of the world. So if you are interested in a female perspective on this, please look at a lady called Hannah Ardent. I will put some of her work in what I'm going to send you as well. So because the female body self was often missing at this time. So again, with the body work, there is a timeline of politics going on, power, privilege again, and this is what we're talking about. It's still going on now. When we're talking, it is controversial to work with the body now and speak about the body. Okay,
Lorna, sorry, what was who was Hannah? Was there Hannah?
Hannah Arendt, spelled Hannah, surname Arendh. She was a female phenomenologist. There are some others I can mention here: Edith Stein, Hedwig Conrad Mort. Yeah, so Edith Stein, for example, believed very much that unity of the self can only be presented through a form of embodiment. In the main text, these women aren't written about, so I bring these women forward in my work because they're often missed from the headlines of the day. So Maurice spoke very much that flesh is at the heart of the world, and that every moment is pregnant, okay, with information. So just take a moment, think about your clients, think about who's coming to you, the movement or the lack of movement, or the lack of eye contact, the tone. When you listen to your client's voice, maybe on the phone, and you know how they are like this, okay? Daniel Stern in 2004, so jumping up a bit, the timeline, said that we need to look at therapy differently through a magnifying glass of the present moment and from a phenomenological perspective, because actually until recently, from the early 20th century to honestly 2014, Stern was one of the people who bashed the door down for Bezel to do this. Now we're doing this stuff now, which is great. Therapy just went onto the comfy couch, right? Which we're going to pick up on now. So the mainstream therapy went onto the couch, and it was cognitive. So, for example, Merleau-Ponty really challenged, remember Pavlov's dog, the thing about ringing the bell in the salivant dog, that thing that you learned in school. So he challenged that and said, that's nonsense. Well, humans are not the sum of parts, and actually back then Merleau-Ponty looked at Gestalt psychology, saying that it has to be more holistic, bringing the body in. So with phenomenology, time is important. Think of time in the sessions. Think of time. What is happening in the here and now? What's happening for you in the here and now when we're talking about this? So I'm going to jump over a few key people here. I don't mean jump over, I just mean we've got 3 hours, and I want to give you a flavour of their work. These people are important. They highlight the work that we're doing now, and we wouldn't be doing the work we're doing now if it hadn't been for their work. So Freud, okay. So Freud attended lectures on phenomenology, and Freud himself spoke in his early work, very early work, his first book, he spoke of an existence of body energy. body energy. His later work was the, you know, the 5 stages, the psychosexual, the personality stuff. But his early work was really focused on the body and energy. And Freud himself, he would look at patients, he would massage his patients, look at their secretions, their sexual energy, their tics. Yeah, he would really examine their bodies. And he said that this electrical charge was spread over the surface of the body. So think of your clients and high energy, frozen. What's happening to this electrical charge? The electrical charge that the lady earlier mentioned that she's able to pick up over Zoom. What? That electrical charge. So, and also Freud spoke that it's a very remarkable thing that the unconscious of one human being can react upon that of another without passing through the conscious. 2 people. Yeah, I'm not going into groups, but the 2 people, I love this. So it's remarkable that the unconscious of one human being can react upon that of another without passing through the conscious. Okay, so holding that in mind. How do your clients make you feel? What happens for you in that situation? Well, if your unconscious is connecting with their unconscious. So also at the time, and the Jungian work is very interesting here, but I just want to put this in as a little bit of chili powder, that Freud's work, his early work, also explored dreams and the body in our dreams, and that when trauma, people who've experienced trauma, they would hold, and he used the word house, their trauma is housed in their body. The trauma is housed in their body. And it's when they dream, the dream world, does that trauma reenact? Does the swirls of trauma, does it come back in our dreams? Think about your clients who talk about their dreams. Do you ask your clients, I'm sure you all do, to notice their dreams and maybe bring them back, write them down for them to explore them? This doesn't mean that you need to go and do 3-year training on Jungian dream analysis. Just notice in your dreams, where are your bodies? Yeah. So Jung said this: whatever your experience outside of the body in a dream, for instance, it's not experienced unless you take it into the body, because the body means the here and now. It's quite powerful. I'm going to send you some more reading around that. And if you, actually, I'm going to tell you the name of the person now who I'm going to recommend rather than getting lost. If this is of interest to you, there is a lady who, and she's alive now, she's very good, and she's called Marion Dunley, and she wrote a book that came out in 2019. She's a Jungian therapist, and it's called Body Dreaming and Healing Developmental Trauma. It's a great book, and I'm also going to send you a YouTube video of her that's very good, and her work is based on the work of Marion Woodman. Marion Woodman was her teacher before she died. Yeah, if you're interested in dreams, you will find Marion's work very, very interesting. Okay, so let's have a bit of conflict here. So Freud, his sort of right-hand man was a gentleman called William Reich. So what happened with William Reich is when Freud moved more away from working with the body, Reich took this work up. Reich's attention was on the breath. Just take a breath with me now. Oh, okay. His work is on the breath, the nervous system, and movement, energy. Again, we're talking about energy in the body. And William Reich, he really, really fell out with Freud. Really fell out with Freud, and Freud fell out with him. And remember, Freud is the great and the good. Freud is the power. So you've got a lot of power dynamics going on, and they really fell out over this. However, Reich, one of the things he's famous for is something called character armor. Character armor. The sum total of typical character armor which an individual develops as a blocking against his emotional excitations, resulting in a rigidity of the body, a lack of emotional contact think of your clients, and deadness. So this is from the early 20th century, and he's writing about the deadness. For me, that was a real connection with his work. So let me explain this character armor a bit. Now, have you seen one of these before? If we were now in the big white room with all the light coming in together, I'd be passing this round. So here I am doing it digitally. You can get them on Amazon. They're called the Weeping Buddha. Really good to let people hold with depression. It's quite powerful. So the Weeping Buddha. So have a look at this here on his back. Every muscular rigidity contains the history and meaning of its origin. The spasm of the muscle, the physical muscle, is the somatic side of the process of repression. Repression. Think about your clients' bodies. Think about them now. How would you mirror that now? Think about a client. If we're beat down, heads down, think of the posture. Very interesting. Yeah. This is this story of this Buddha is wonderful. This is a warrior Buddha, and the story is that he had gone into a village and ordered everybody, his army, to kill everybody, man, woman, and child in the village. And after the battle, he was told that his son was in the village. So that's the Weeping Buddha. It's very powerful. But for me, it really represents this character armor that we have and that our clients have. So just take a moment to think about your clients' posture, what you may notice there, just who's coming to mind for you right now. What's the phenomenon? Okay. So I'm going to just bring in a little bit more here around the body. So Gestalt therapy, okay? The founders of Gestalt therapy, rather than psychotherapy, that was someone else older. It was Laura. Laura doesn't often get billed first, if at all. Yet Laura did most of the movement work because she was a therapist, but she was also a dancer before. So it was Laura and Fritz. Fritz liked getting in front of the camera and having a good chat and doing all the stories now. She was doing most of the work in the background. So within Gestalt therapy, Gestalt therapy is very much about you've got to lose your mind and come to your senses, connecting with that unconscious, bringing it into conscious awareness. So they wrote that all persons in society have lost connection with large parts of their bodies. It occurred as a way of suppressing intolerable conflict. And if these issues are reintroduced into conscious awareness, they can be worked through in therapy. So again, for Gestalt, when we have a Gestalt, it's like a circle that isn't quite finished, like that picture up there. And every day there's little things that aren't quite finished or unfinished business. And by bringing them into conscious awareness, because they'll manifest in our body, we can complete the Gestalt and move forward. So I'm going to show you this quick little video. I'm going to cut it short. I'll send you the first one, just so you can see him working, just for a couple of minutes. You might need to turn your volume up.
So I invite anyone who wants to come forth and work with me to take the hot seat. Your name is? Lorna. I have only one request to make to you. To use the word now, if possible, with every sentence.
Like now I feel my heart beating?
Yeah.
And now I wonder why I'm sitting here. Why did I wish to fill the void? Now I'm wondering what is there to work with?
Yeah. Let me interrupt you here and switch back to Freud and his psychoanalysis. Freud said a person who's free from guilt feelings and anxiety is healthy. My own theory about anxiety and guilt are those. Guilt, as I hope to show in its context, is nothing but unexpressed resentment. And anxiety is nothing but the gap between the now and the later. As soon you leave the secure basis of the now and jump into the future, you experience anxiety, or in this case, stage fright. You get excited, the heart begins to race, and so on and so on, all the symptoms of stage fright. The fact that we very often don't notice our chronic anxiety is simply that we fill the gap of the now and later with insurance policies, rigid character formations, daydreams, and so on. If we reduce the later to the now, the anxiety is bound to collapse. So, let's do this now. Close your eyes and tell us in detail what do you experience now.
Well, physically I feel the warmth of one hand and another. I feel, now I feel tension throughout my body.
Can you
especially up here.
Fine. Can you enter this tension?
It's as if I'm being stretched this way, across my shoulder.
Can you do this to me?
Oh.
Stretch me.
It's as if I'm being pulled up this way.
More. Do it as much as you need to. Okay, sit down.
Something like that. Now it's gone away.
Now it's gone away. So there you go. That was Fritz Perls doing a real-time example of taking something, a phenomenon, from the unconscious, bringing it phenomenologically into the conscious and working with it. I'm not suggesting that you smoke Marlboro Lights and have the client come and, you know, tug at your top. Not at all, but it's really useful that we do pin this back there. If you are interested in Gestalt work, I have to recommend the work of the Gestalt Centre in London. They do great courses. Also, Laura and Fritz ended up with a place in California called the Esalen Institute. This is what goes on at the Esalen Institute. Maybe that's only on a Wednesday morning, I don't know. It's a fabulous place where really the East, and I've got a book on it here, one second. Right. America and the Religion of No Religion. So there was a lot going on there. If you're interested in this, they were getting up to all sorts, taking LSD and dreadful sort of group therapy things that weren't okay in the sort of 40s, 50s, 60s. But it's really interesting as a sort of counter to the mainstream therapy. So I'm just going to ask for a moment, just take a moment here. Can you just have a breathe, have a little move? And we're going to just go into, before we take a break, we're just going to go into a breakout now, and I want you to talk about, well, I'd like you to just think about maybe what you've noticed in your clients when we've been going through this, the phenomenology, what's the presenting I'm saying physical, it often won't be as obvious as that, but what have you seen in your clients? Doesn't need to be interpreted. Zena, have you got the magic key to the door?
Yeah, how long do you want these, Lorna? This one?
We'll just do this 12 minutes again.
12 minutes, yeah.
And then we'll take a break, yeah. Great. So what have you noticed in your clients? So the first step, what have you noticed in your clients? Who's been coming to you? Just you'll have a couple of minutes each, so just to keep an eye on time. And Zena's going to send us off there now. Great. We'll see you on the other side, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Looks like we've got the full ship's full there, Zena. So yeah, it'd be great. Well, it would be lovely to hear and share some of that from not everyone. Don't feel that you need to. Would anyone like to be brave enough and share from the group or one of their own noticings?
I can share.
Please, thank you.
So we talked about somatization. We talked about how the body expresses what we can't verbally express. How the body holds on to trauma, and the Cartesian dualism stuff, and dis-ease rather than disease.
Say that. Go on, pull that apart for me.
Dis-ease rather than disease.
Oh, disease.
Yeah, so we constantly think there's a root cause to the illness, but there's an emotional aspect that is not ever explored, and how taught therapy is really about a cognitive exchange rather than these two bodies in the room. Yeah,
wonderful. Hey, that was like the perfect answer. Thank you for that. That's wonderful.
You're welcome. That was my dissertation.
All right. Boom, you got it right. Brilliant. Anyone else? Anything about any clients, or is there anyone would like to share?
Well, I will share, because I went into that discussion not quite sure what I would bring, because I'm not a therapist. I'm more of a coach. Yeah. And I was talking about my face-to-face client last week, who's a senior leader in an organization, and it was the first session. So we were doing that, we'd met on Zoom, but we were doing that connecting bit to begin with. Yeah. And he had real difficulty looking at me, and he was looking down and so on. And so in my mind, I was just kind of do a little bit of transaction analysis and life script work, and I was just curious how had he learned to look down when he met new people. And it's just parked there. And I was describing it to the group I was just in, and I said, the work is about, for him, he's got great progression potential. They want to see whether he will make XCOM, which is the top bit of the organization. And the work is in, how does he stop looking down into his division and actually start seeing the bigger picture of the organization and telling the strategic narrative and leadership stories and managing the new private equity stakeholder that they've got. And just in talking about that, I just made connections there between my personal experience of meeting him for the first time, and maybe his thinking patterns seem to be in and down rather than up and out as well. So I don't know what I'll do with that, but that just came up as we were.
That's powerful. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So that is the work. Anyone else? Thank you for that. That was great. Anyone else with any clients, anything?
Yeah, I was just going to share.
Great, Kate.
I had a client that I saw for quite a long time, and the first two sessions I came out of the session and had to go home, actually, because I had a terrible migraine, and I do get migraines, but not that frequently. And when it kept happening in the sessions with her, I recognised there's a link here in my work with her. So I would wear a shirt and cover this part of myself, or wear a scarf, or I would, in almost not try and lose contact with her, but kind of almost create a bubble. So there was some kind of separation, and it kind of, I was able to deal with it and, kind of not have these migraines. But later on in the work, when she acknowledged her anger and got into her anger and felt her anger, she had to stop because she was getting migraines. So I was picking up somatically. And this is what I was saying. I think at the beginning, you know, what are we going to talk about? I wasn't really sure about how I work with the body, because I think I pick it up, I feel it in my body. And I'm still, you know, I've done my training, but I'm still learning. What is my body telling? Is it mine? Is it yours? What do I do? And often I've just been to the gym and my legs hurt, or do you know what I mean, or whatever. But I think there's something in there for me that I'm trying to fine tune that can help me later on in the work.
Great, Kate. That was an amazing example. That's exactly what I was looking. Thank you for that. Thank you. And you are doing the work, and this is all, we're all doing that. So thank you for that. Thank you everyone for sharing there. So let's take a 10-minute movement break. I need you to move, walk, get outside, take some air, have a shake. Let's have a move, and we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. So it's about 22. Okay, we'll see you then. Okay, bye. I still dream of organ. I wake up crying. You're making rain, and you're just in reach. When you in sleep escape me, you're like my yo-yo that glows in the dark. What made it special? welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Hi. Great. Great. So Zena, will you give us a nod when you think everybody's back? Please. And just so you know, that random video that was playing through your houses and that music was a Kate Bush video called Cloud Busting about William Reich's life. So to sort of finish the gestalt on William Reich was imprisoned by the FBI because of his work on the body. His books were burnt by the Nazis, and he died in prison because of this work. And Kate Bush is friends with his son, and I'll send you the video if you want, or you can just look it up on YouTube. Just put Cloud Busting into YouTube and you can watch it. And there was a dance version of it a couple of years ago. It's quite cool. So are we all back, Zena, thereabouts?
Thereabouts, yeah.
Thereabouts, sure. Brilliant. So really, I'm just going to ask you, what can you do to make yourself feel more comfortable right now? What to feel more comfortable? Do you need to sit on the floor, get that blanket, put a cushion under you? Anything you need to do. Have a little move, have a little wiggle, just to arrive back. Okay. So now we're going to look at the breath. Now, there was something on TikTok that was really big over lockdown, and it was basically a piss take of somebody wanting to access mental health services, and it was a girl sort of ringing up. It was a massive on TikTok, and then, you know, the sort of person at the end of the phone, you know, was saying, you know, just take 3 deep breaths. And for me, it was like, oh God, like, I do understand that the breath, we're not talking about a crisis intervention here when people are talking about mental health. You may have seen that thing on TikTok. However, for me, what is very important is that we frame the breath, and we have to bring a bit of science in here. So the breath, again, it's not a crisis intervention, but it's the doorway to our nervous system, right? The breath is the doorway to our nervous system. So I'm going to ask you, let's all do something together. Let's do this live. I'll just not put it on share. Okay, so let's do this live. You might want to put it on gallery, and let's all breathe together. Let's regulate. With lockdown, we are all have experienced dysregulation. Okay, so let's all just put your feet on the floor, spine is straight. You might want to roll your shoulders back, eyes open or closed. Let's inhale for 4, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Inhale for 4, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Inhale for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Inhale for 4, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just pause. Just letting that go. Just taking a moment to reconnect with yourself, how you feel. Take a natural breath. Just coming back in the space. Coming back in the space. So when we, I'm just going to share this again. When we inhale for 4 and exhale for 6, we impact our nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system. So when I'm working with people, either in therapy one-to-one, this works in coaching, it'll help with grounding. And in yoga, it's about putting a frame on it that when we inhale for 4, when we exhale for 6, so it's about the longer exhalation. 4, 6 is just easy to remember when people are having a panic attack. we impact our parasympathetic nervous system. We come away from fight flight. Okay. So the autonomic nervous system, why is this important to us? And I mean to us as therapists, as yoga teachers, as people who are working in the healing profession, and as coaches. Okay, this is inclusive of all. The autonomic nervous system, because and this is a quote from Babette, at the very least, becoming familiar with the autonomic nervous system, that division of the nervous system, or the ANS, is a must for those who are working with highly distressed or traumatized people. A grasping of the ANS will provide key tools for client containment and therapist self-care. Okay, so it's about you as well. As a community, the yoga classes are full, the therapists are full, we're all full. The coaches are getting full, and the mental health overlap there is big. People are returning to work, people have been dysregulated, the whole world has been dysregulated. Yeah, so we need to look after ourselves. Where are we after this journey from last March? Are we burnt out? Everyone's burnt out, really. What are you needing to change? Okay, so with the autonomic nervous system, I'm going to be asking you, so just for a moment as well, I'm going to ask you to just dip your chin to your chest, and take the chin up, take the gaze up. You may squeeze the shoulder blades a little. You may want to sip a little breath at the top, and then bring the chin back down. So you may notice a lengthening at the back of the neck, maybe at the top of the shoulders. And when you take the gaze up, inhale and opening at the front of the neck. And just notice any tension at the back of the neck as well. So, and let that go. So when we do that, when we notice what's going on in the here and now, that's a little bit of trauma-informed yoga. It's called interoception. So we can have a dual awareness of what is going on outside of my body, but also what's happening within my body in the here and now, picking up with what the lineage that we've spoken about this morning, being in the here and now. So the breath we can use when we put it with movement to bring it back to the here and now. So please do what you need to do now to breathe and move, to feel just more comfortable right now, because the ability to self-regulate is critical to a sense of agency, healthy narcissism, and social confidence. Think about the impact of lockdown. Think about how we learn to regulate as babies. A baby looking into its mother's eyes when it's breastfeeding, yeah, how it regulates, how we then regulate with other people in the world. That was all taken away. We had to stay home on our own. For me, a lot of my anger and frustration last year was around the lack of that. So everyone's talking about data and bodies, and of course we understand why, but waiting for the tsunami that is now hitting of the impact of that lack of regulation and the damage that's done. So this includes the capacity of the body to find equilibrium through expressive movement, through reflexes like shaking. We need to shake. Yeah, animals, when they have a trauma, when they have a fright, prey animals, they will run. The deer will run, the horse will run, and they'll have a shake. Your dog will have a shake, and then they're all right again. Where do we go to shake? Have a little shake now. Have a little shake. I work a lot with people explaining around the benefits of, you know, when we're anxious, we're riddled with that adrenaline and cortisol. Yeah, so we need to shake that off, because that becomes illness. Crying, laughing, regulating the breath. When we are around other people, unconsciously we regulate our breath. Okay, and so regulation is very important, and I'm sure that, feel free to pop stuff in the chat. What are you seeing about the dysregulation of the world in your clients, in yourself? Yeah, what's being squeezed, what just tipped over? Yeah, so I'm going to bring into frame here the window of tolerance. So the window of tolerance, I'm going to build Pat Ogden for this first. Pat Ogden, and the window of tolerance where it's useful, rather than to be able to speak about this clinically, you can use this as a coach. You can train people in yoga around this, the window of tolerance. So we have hyperarousal, right? It's the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, the fight-flight response, increased sensations, flooded emotional activity, hypervigilant, my back's to the wall, yeah? Intrusive imagery, flashbacks, can't think, anxiety, think about the energy pinned to this, it's higher, upper body, or the legs to run, okay? The lower end of this, hypoarousal, right? So dorsal immobilization. So this is a lack of sensation. What's coming to you here? The deadness, the frozen, the stuck. Please put things in the chat if things are coming. We're all interested in what this is. Numbing of emotions, disabled cognitive processing. Again, I can't think. Lower end, depression, stuckness, no physical movement. Think about the fact that people haven't been moving very much through lockdown, through the last year. What's that done to people's nervous system? And of course, where good is, what good looks like, is an optimum arousal zone, the ventral vagal zone. It's around social engagement. Our neurons in our brain, the synapses are firing at this point. Good stuff's going on. So it's a state where emotions can be tolerated, information integrated, the here and now. Creativity comes back. We're laughing, we're singing, we're doing this stuff in the here and now, rather than being high, up, or low. Where's the disassociation? Think about disassociation in your clients, what's going on. So I just like to pin these visuals on because obviously it helps me quite a lot. So sympathetic is high, higher energy, COVID, running from the bull, running from the tiger, right? It's mobilization energy. Our bodies, so from the amygdala in our brain, the little tap, we stop thinking, don't know what's going on, the here and now rational thinking stopped, and I have adrenaline and cortisol rushing through me now. I am in backs to the wall, I'm in survival mode. So again, just think about what's gone on for the last 19 months. So Stephen Porges talks about the 3 responses that we have here. And where's the breath here? Where's people's breathing when we're high? It's usually non-existent or fasting in the upper chest, okay? So we will either shout for help, we will, if that fails, shouting for help, we will go into fight or run like hell. So this will show up in avoidance as well, the running away, or there's the freeze response, okay? Again, numbness, playing dead. And in that freeze response, please hold in mind that this is a survival response. These are all survival responses. Because if we didn't run from the dinosaur might eat us. If the deer didn't play dead, might just walk past it. And this did happen to me a while back. I was in a field and there was a deer. And the deer was staring at me, and I was staring at the deer. And I couldn't believe it because I was thinking of this slide. It was all a bit weird. And then I just left it because I thought, so I ended up leaving it, and the deer obviously did whatever the deer did. It was quite odd. But over lockdown, and I know people who work maybe in business, coaches, you may have seen this a lot more. Over lockdown, what was happening was people were going into a state called fawning a lot. So fawning, it's Stockholm syndrome. It's pleasing the person who is holding me prisoner, especially with the workplace. So remember, a lot of anxiety that people were coming to therapy for and were struggling with was around anxiety in the workplace. But then when this happened, they were just agreeing with their bosses. And I was working with people who are bosses, and they were saying, everyone's just agreeing with me. Everyone was fawning because it's a way of staying safe. We didn't know if we were going to get the sack, were we going to lose our money, what was going on. It's the safest place to be. So like I say, I saw a lot of that in the workplace. And the parasympathetic, just as a visual for you, and I've got a black pug, so this is Hugo. Not actually Hugo, but it looks like him. So the parasympathetic is lower. Positively, it's where we need to go to rest, feed, digest, breathe. Yeah, so this is where the yin yoga is good, when we're exhaling, when we're doing that longer exhalation, it's activating the parasympathetic. Really, within a couple of breaths, it's taking us down. Parasympathetic nervous system. Too much of this, it's the lower disassociation, it's the depression. And this is where a lot of people are now. Please jump in. It'd be useful just for people to share, maybe it's in the chat. Did you see more people in anxiety, then more people with lower mood? And I know, I'm aware it's complicated, but anything that you may have seen for how people are presenting. So we've got the higher and lower energy. So within the body.
Sorry, Lorna, just to give people an opportunity to respond to that, can I just ask, and
yeah,
Sarah, please feel free to jump in and make sure I'm asking this correctly. But when it's related to when you were talking about the hyperarousal,
yeah,
does this talk to repression of emotion and hip stiffness?
What was the last bit? Hips.
Hip stiffness.
Yes. Hip.
I think Sarah's going to ask directly. Might be a bit easier.
It's just when you said dorsal higher. When you said dorsal immobilization, and we chatted about it a little bit in our subgroup before, you know, if people have stiff hips, is that because there's a lot of held, repressed emotion in that area?
Yeah.
As in the body's holding in that area. And when you said that in dorsal immobilization, it just made me think that's the same thing. Yeah. Is it holding stuff in creates stiffness in the, you know, in the hip, and the joints around that part of the body? Is that congruent with that? Is that what that is? It
is. So it's the whole body is lower, right? The whole body is lower. However, when we are going lower, it is lower energy. And I'll just do a bit of a yoga flip on this, whereas actually we hold more tension in our hips than we do our shoulders. People always think, oh, it's my shoulders. It's actually our hips. And when people do work, we hold emotions in our hips. Lower energy is more emotional. Higher energy is emotional. But with a yoga tent on it, hips hold more emotion. It's usually when people are doing hip openers in yoga classes, that's when the tears come. It's emotional. In trauma yoga, we don't go anywhere near that because it's just far too much. So you're absolutely right. There is a connection with the hips. And also, I have to say, it's anything below the belly button, the organs there below, lower.
Great. I did a certain Thai yoga massage, and that just seems to have a congruence with that working with opening the hips would tend to bring out emotion in people.
Absolutely. And so the yin yoga as well, or that massage you've just talked about, is very powerful. And I actually say to people, if you're feeling depressed, don't do yin yoga. Don't do that. No, you need to be getting balanced, or you maybe need to be energizing.
And Lorna, just one other question, sorry. Is the freeze response the parasympathetic activation?
The freeze response is the fight, flight, freeze. So it's the start of the lower end. We go to freeze, but then it's the start of the parasympathetic, and then it goes into, and then I'll talk about the vagus nerve in a second as well. So you've got red hot, fight, flight, mobilization, action. The world's coming down, the sky's falling down. I'm going to go out, I'm going to fight. I need to work, I need to feed my kids. La 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 la. Yeah. The other, then we froze, and then we go down.
Thank you, Lorna.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. So we know that there are lots of studies around the impact of the nervous system. It shows up in stress, insomnia, phobias. Again, maybe just put stuff in the chat that you saw through COVID as therapists. And you'll be getting these slides, Sarah. You can have them, no problem. Eating disorders. With COVID, it's like a cheese press is just the metaphor that comes to mind for me. You know, even if people were doing okay, it just squeezed it even more. And as we come out, this is why we're all busy. This is why we're full. So the nervous system, very important. But I just want to drop this thing in that I think is really beautiful, that a regulated nervous system, so this is two people in the room, a regulated nervous system can balance other nervous systems naturally around it without having to do or fix anything. You know, we're always looking for the next intervention. I need to do this. I'll wave my magic wand. I don't know, get the Play-Doh out or whatever. It's about you. Can you be that regulated person? So that the nervous system, it's not autonomous. It's regulated through our interactions with others. How do we stay well? How do you stay well in therapy, in your work? When you've had if you think in a day's work, sorry about this, yeah. If you think in a day's work, if you've had maybe 3, 4, 5 clients, where's your nervous system? Up, down, up, down. How do you stay well? I'd love to invite you to put some things in the chat. What are you doing? Are you going for a walk, having a bath, doing the things? Where's supervision coming into all of this? Yeah, be great to hear that. Be great to hear that. Okay, I am going to show you this video quickly. Quickly going to jump into this video. Just going to see Bezel as well.
Clients who have experienced trauma often have difficulty regulating their emotions. So how can we help them learn how to self-regulate? Well, the first thing we need to think about is their window of tolerance. Because if they're outside that window, it can be difficult for them to make progress in their sessions with us.
When I think about self-regulation, I really think about that optimum window of tolerance, right? That in a non-traumatized client with good self-regulation skills is really quite wide. So, they have a broad window of tolerance. And of course, you have to be in that window of tolerance to be able to think clearly, to have good relationships, to plan for the future. If you're outside that optimum window of tolerance, all those abilities, I think, are very much affected. And so when we think about our traumatized clients who have great difficulties with self-regulation, I always think of that optimum window of tolerance shrinking, right? So it's very narrow, and usually they're either too hyper-aroused or too hypo-aroused, which prevents them from thinking clearly, of being involved in stable relationships, prevents them from being really able to function at work because, they're constantly juggling either hyper-aroused or hypo-aroused states. So I think self-regulation is all about being in that optimum window of tolerance and widening that optimum window of tolerance through emotional awareness, through learning how to regulate your emotions, and through really coming into your body and feeling safe in your body.
That was Dr. Ruth Lanius. Ruth is a professor of psychiatry and the director of the Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Research Unit at the University of Western Ontario. And she's just given us an excellent snapshot of the window of tolerance. That's a term from Dr. Dan Siegel, and it's an important concept when we're working with trauma and dysregulation. Now, expanding that window of tolerance is critical when we're helping clients learn to self-regulate. So what are some practical tools we can use to do this? Well, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk begins his work as soon as a client walks into his office.
When somebody walks in my office, I look at the way they walk in. I look at whether they're able to make eye contact. I look at their breathing. So one of the first things I do when I sit with people is I look at whether they actually are able to live within their rib cages. And I may spend the first hour with a new patient helping them to just open up their rib cage and to breathe. Because as long as that primitive part of your brain is all uptight, it's no use to do psychotherapy with them. So you start off with the most elementary arousal systems of the body. Every session I do that with everybody. When people are uptight, we may do Qigong exercises. Just imagine you have a ball between your hands. Open up your rib cage, calm yourself down. I may tap with people, tap acupressure points.
Now, how does tapping affect people? Well, here's what Bessel has found.
People become quieter. People get into the window of tolerance. People become more focused, alert, can actually talk about things. When people are uptight, I like to say never leave home without a beach ball. People are uptight, you throw a beach ball back and forth. And when you get the rhythm going, you activate the most elementary synchrony part of your brain. So you calm yourself down and it becomes safe to start talking about stuff that may otherwise be terrifying.
These breathing and movement exercises can be used for clients who are either hyper or hypo-aroused. The key thing here is helping people come back into their window of tolerance, because when our clients are dysregulated, it can be near impossible to do the difficult work of healing. Now I'd like to hear from you. What have you found to be effective in helping clients learn to self-regulate?
Okay. So I want to do a breakout now actually on this. So initially, earlier, we're talking about this first step, which is noticing the clients, your energy out. You, therapist, coach, yoga teacher, okay, you, what are you seeing, okay? And this is building on that, the part of that, okay? So, you know, noticing their breath, what can we do? Getting in that window of tolerance. And I'm interested for us to share, how do we work with clients? What works? What works for you? What have you got a beach ball? I did love the beach ball, and I've used a beach ball, but COVID put an end to my beach ball antics. In that big white room would be bashing a beach ball around. That works. So, no, but in therapy, when you're working with people, how do you ground people? How are you bringing them back? What works? What are you working with? What are you working with? And then we're going to talk about the vagus nerve, but for me, where the magic happens, right? And it's important we can have theory, but we need to have practical stuff as well. So it's when we actually start to encourage the client to notice, not noticing what we're seeing, okay? That's a process, the first line of work. It's when we've been working with a client for a while and we invite them and we're bringing it into awareness. When the lady mentioned earlier about, maybe was it tap in the chest, or when the client is, you know, where we're bringing that into their awareness. You know, well, I noticed that you're going like this, what's going on here? Or they're telling the story and it's this, and we mirror them. What is this? To bring that phenomena into the space. You may even give them homework to notice, just to notice. So this week I had a breakthrough with a client that I honestly didn't think would ever happen. And it's a long-term trauma client, very cognitive. And the work was for her, it's been a long time, the work for her to be able to go and notice just what she needs. Like, I'll ask you now, what do you need? It's 12. What do you need? What do you need right now? Do we need to breathe? Do we need to move? Often with trauma, people don't know what they need. They don't know if they're hungry, thirsty, need the toilet, anything. Especially this client in particular, as a child, had practically no childhood because she was managing alcoholic, violent father as the favourite child, while the rest of the family and the mother could stay safe because she was the cute one. She was the one able to manage him. So she's never looked at her needs before. And the breakthrough was there just for her to go and notice that. What did she need? When was she thirsty? When did she need to go to bed? When did she not need to drink? Huge breakthrough. So I have to bring in this next level of work where we are working with our clients and for them to start to bring it into awareness. It might just be, oh, well, I was doing that and then I noticed I wasn't breathing. Or I was here, but I felt uncomfortable and I went and moved to be safe. How people need to feel safe. So just be curious about that, how you can start to integrate that into your work. Maybe you already are bringing that into your work for the client to become aware of it. So often when we're working with people with anxiety or, you know, when they're tracking it down, it might be, and we can describe it, you know, what color is it? What temperature is it? Where is it in the body? But they're able to then, as homework, or begin to notice it early, to catch it early, so they're not falling down the well. They're not down the well. Okay. So there's the second line of work is about the client being able to gently become aware of their body. So their body isn't their enemy. They're not being ambushed, but usually the body's the least safe place they can be. and that's why they're constantly, or most of the time, disassociated, self-numbing with food, sex, drugs, cutting. I'll be missing a load here. Please jump in, and I'll be missing a lot here. So other people, please jump in. Overwork, food, sex, drugs. Yeah, all of that. So
Lorna,
yeah.
sorry, have we got another breakout room planned?
Going to do one in a minute. Is that okay?
Is that what we're coming up to? Okay, yeah. I was just wondering, we've got a couple of people in the group that are doing really interesting work. I don't know if there's time maybe to invite, if that people want to speak. I'm not going to put people on the spot, and I won't name names, but we have a tapping expert in the group that does training. We've got I think lots of people in the breakout room just start to talk about different sort of work that they're doing. Just an idea.
Let's go into a breakout and share some of this. Okay, I want to share where we are sharing some knowledge, and this is as coaches, therapists, yoga teachers, when someone's anxious and they're high, how are you grounding them? So it's about regulation. And remember, if we're regulated, we're able to regulate the other person. Okay. The vagus nerve, this is another benefit of lockdown. Nobody used to know about the vagus nerve and polyvagal theory, and now everyone's been trained on it, and it's everywhere. It's like, I don't know, it's like hot cupcakes, warm cupcakes, the vagus nerve. I'm going to pepper this in before we go on breakout, okay? So the reality is, again, with lockdown, I've got clients coming in saying they've read this book. Oh, I bumped into a lady who I teach trauma yoga to in a park in lockdown. And she went, oh, I'm listening to an audio book. And it was this audio book. It was the best. These are really hard to reach people. Some of it, this lady in particular, they've read the book. The clients have got the book. I had a new client come in a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, oh, I know all about polyvagal theory. I've got my ladder and I know the thing and I know what ventricle. This is unreal. These are like gifts. So the training's working. So we're all doing a good job getting this message out. But let me just add on the vagus nerve, right? We're talking about breath, high, low. So the vagus nerve is the wandering nerve, back of the neck, connecting to all of the major organs, like on that picture there, all of the major organs. It's the chief neurotransmitter of Hugo the dog, sleeping dog, the parasympathetic nervous system. 80% of the fibers within this nerve go from body to brain, brain to body. And it sends messages to reduce the heart rate. Okay, so when we're going down, and it releases anti-inflammatory chemicals. Regulated by social engagement, eye contact, smiles. So we need to go and connect on these breakout groups in a second. The back of the throat is very important for stimulating it. Just everybody now, just join me in making a humming noise. Hum. Like a little bee. Hum. There you go, stimulating the vagus nerve, emotional reaction, but we need social connection. Ultimately, the vagus nerve, the phrase scared to death, right? When the body goes into total shutdown, it's the vagus nerve that shuts everything down, emptying the bowels. The phrase scared to death, this is the switch off. Okay. However, we can use it positively. So over lockdown, again, people, not me, have been jumping in the North Sea or the South Sea or just the cold sea in Scotland or whatever they're doing. Swimming in, Samantha, is that you? What does that do to you, Samantha? What does that do to your vagus nerve?
It calms me right down. There were definite moments mid-December, January, February, where I thought my head was going to explode. And I thought, I just need to dunk myself in the sea. I just need to dunk myself in cold water. And then I looked out the window and went, I've got cold water. All right, let's go.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So again, another benefit of lockdown, that is impacting your vagus nerve. It's activating your parasympathetic, taking you down. And how do you feel afterwards?
Like I've got a body again.
Wow. There you go. There it is. There it is. So vagal, so obviously the polyvagal theory is very popular now. Again, this is another, it's a blueprint for the vagus nerve. And it's interesting because if you speak to someone medical, they always talk about the vagus nerve, you know, but for therapy, it's a useful tool for clients to be able to understand and experience. And it's not a dark art sort of thing that we used to be scared of a couple of years ago to bring in. The clients get it, they're experiencing it. They're jumping in the sea, they're singing. Okay, so whether it's the humming breath that we did or alternative nostril breathing, talking. Remember over lockdown, we weren't able to talk to people. Loving kindness meditation stimulates the vagus nerve. Washing your hands in icy water. I'd like you to do that after this session, actually. Go and wash your hands in cold water. Splash it on your face. Okay. And there's something about the voo sound. Okay. This does sound a little bit woo-woo, but just try this. The woo, slightly higher pitch than that humming. Woo. Just notice the vibration there. Notice the vibration. Okay. So
what is the polyvagal?
That's Stephen Porges. I'll send you a video on Stephen talking about it. He's a lovely man. And he's not a therapist. So actually he's teamed up with a lady called Deb Dana, who is a therapist, and she's the one who's made the ladder. Stephen isn't a psychotherapist, but he's gorgeous. He's a lovely man. So we're going to go into a breakout now, and I'm going to, what works for you when working with clients? Regulate. And again, this may be something around, just go in the space, just see what it is. What helps clients regulate? Keep yourself in that. What's helping you regulate? Especially with lockdown. Helping the clients lockdown. So can we just do a 10-minute one there, Zena, please? Zena will be doing what she does. We'll be pinging off there. Great. So it would be wonderful. And I know we've got 30 minutes left and I've still got a lot to get in, but it's often really useful when we collaborate and share. So it'd be wonderful if anyone would like to share any of their magic or anything that was useful in that breakout around how they're working with people. Oh, anything that might be useful to the wider group.
Gosh.
Go on. Hi.
It was. Oh, sorry, I don't know who. Is it someone else talking?
It's definitely you.
Oh, I can't see. Sorry, everyone. I don't know why I've opened something accidentally. I was just curious about, what you said about regulating, self-regulating, and I was just noticing, in my own, when I'm learning, doing like any kind of deeper stuff where I'm vulnerable, I will swallow. Swallow down the vulnerability because I don't like it. I don't like going near it. So I was just curious about into the polyvagal theory where that might sit when there's that activation of, say, some sadness or something that's painful, or there's other parts of me that don't like going near it. I was just curious about where that might sit.
Where do you think it might sit?
Well, I'm just thinking of its deep sadness, let's say, and it's a younger part of me that's getting activated, that's in. It feels some distress, and there's other parts of me that don't like going near it, suppressing it in some way, and it suppresses it in a swallow. So I'm thinking there's a level of activation, so there's some stimulation, maybe, but the pushing down. So it's a little bit confusing because I feel it's a bit of the activation is quite maybe a more sort of stimulus. You know what I mean, like. And then the clamping down maybe could be a bit, I didn't know. That's why I was unsure.
Well, that is great awareness. And actually, that is something I would work with in therapy. So your awareness is already there. I can hear that about where that's coming from. But in the safety of therapy, that's something that we would absolutely work with. So you've got the physical swallowing down. And often that's in sort of hardcore therapy training, you're not allowed to drink water. You know, because it would be, therefore you're not letting the emotions come out, you're swallowing them down. And often someone wrote in the thing before about taking a sip of water, a brilliant thing about air and ground, and it was beautiful, what that person had written. But when we take a sip, it does. Yeah, but I can also hear that you have a real powerful understanding of where that's coming from for you.
Yeah, and I was just curious on the model, because I mean, I do personal development and personal therapy.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking in terms of that.
You do, I would take that to therapy, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's something I would do anyway, because I've always done a lot of personal therapy.
Yeah, yeah, very powerful. And
there is also, I think there is something physiological. The swallowing reflex. It's Randeep, you're talking about the
it's just the response without. Yeah, it's an autonomic response of swallowing down.
Yeah, I just had a quick look actually. There's when your nervous system kicks into gear, it's saying it triggers your fight or flight response, and the body starts to circulate more oxygen into your muscles, which also triggers your tear ducts, and that there's a buildup of mucus behind your nose and throat, which can cause you to swallow.
Okay.
And often you get a dry mouth. There's someone else mentioned that on there about a dry mouth. There's a dry mouth and a swallowing because your body's being activated to keep you safe for survival.
I can just jump in, it might be helpful. I used to do a lot of quite a few Gestalt workshops and psychodrama, and again we were not allowed to chew, to eat. You could have water. It was actually Spain, so it's quite hot, so you needed water. But our therapist used to say it's, you're swallowing down your emotions if you eat. And that makes sense really, because we comfort eat. We look to eat something and swallow it. And it's kind of a way of pushing stuff away that we don't want, or it's too painful or, beyond our window of tolerance. So I can really relate to that.
Thanks, Judy. Was that useful, Randeep?
Yeah, no, I was just curious in terms of the polyvagal kind of theory. I was just intrigued into
it makes sense, Randeep. It does make sense really, because it's kind of, we know that about culture, isn't it? Like if you watch a cartoon or something, when someone's scared, they gulp, don't they? It's like it's a fear response as well, and that makes sense when you look into your body starting to think about that fight or flight, and it's starting to concentrate on the muscles. I mean, I don't know the biology enough to know all the details, but that it does activate something that increases the mucus and saliva, so that has to go down as well.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was just intrigued. That was all. I was just wondering. But thank you. That's useful to hear. The biology.
Keep with it, Randeep. Follow it.
Oh yeah. No, I will.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And was there anything else? Thank you for that. And is there anything? I'm just aware of time. Was there any? Did anyone have any diamonds, or how people are working with people, or by asking clients to notice what they may have said? Ruth. Ruth, go for it.
So I use a lot of tapping in all my work.
Right.
And so the co-regulation is the breathing, the getting in touch with your body. Where do you feel it? What does it feel like? Is it sharp? Is it blunt? What color is it?
Lovely.
How heavy it is. So it's that.
Great. Go on, give us a bit more, Ruth. I feel like I want a bit more from you with all of this. Give me a bit of what this was. Yeah.
So we were talking about how when a client does come along, we were talking about tapping and how, I get all the meridian point stuff like it. But I honestly think it's making the unconscious conscious. And so it's all the unspoken. It's all the stuff. When someone says, oh, he annoyed me, what they mean is he pissed me off. But we don't say that. And therapy is very much about their cognitive exchange. But in fact, it's two bodies in a room.
Yeah.
What does your body feel like? What does it feel like, that pissed offness in your body?
Yeah.
And it's actually about getting to that, which is, I mean, I honestly am blown away every single time
Every single time.
Every single time.
Beautiful, isn't it? Great. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for sharing today, Ruth. Thank you for that. That was great. Great. So I hope that was useful. If we had more time, we could go into this more. However, I do want to jump on to the next bit. Okay, so just to recap, we've had noticing our client. So you noticing the client, the student, the person, the body, the phenomenon, what's going on. And then we've got being able to, for the client to start to notice as a second step, the client, that they're pissed off, Ruth. Yeah, that they're not okay, that they're pissed. What's this mean? Okay, and for them to notice that. And now we're going to just go into this segue now into, bear with me one second, okay, into a little bit of movement. And I'm going back to Freud's energy, the energy that the lady at the beginning mentioned, that I can still get the energy on Zoom. Energy, lack of energy. Okay, so, but this, well, two people in the room, counter transference. So transference is what, if I'm here and I'm looking at that cushion over here, that I think that cushion reminds me of the color of the deep blue sea, okay, or or the therapist reminds me of my mother, okay, where the counter transference is what is going on for me as a therapist. So when Kate mentioned about the headache, the migraine, what is, the client doesn't know this. That's the client's unconscious and Kate's unconscious speaking together, speaking the wrong word, and then Kate is experiencing that in her body, the migraines in her body. So it's two people in the room and there is a charge energy. And usually it's these moments of charge energy that we remember. Kate, you remembered that moment. You remember that headache. Just notice yourselves the bits of therapy where we remember, or the work with your client as coaches, it's what we remember. Well, I think it was Sarah earlier, or maybe another coach, about the eyes looking down. It's those things that we remember. So I want to really shine a bright light on this, yeah? That Susie Orbach talks about having wildcat sensations in her own body, or wildcat counter-transference. And it's a very unfamiliar bodily experience. So just think about what you've experienced, okay? So Shaw did some great research on this. However, you know, is it a gut reaction, pregnancy feelings, asthma feelings? Sometimes I can't breathe. Think about the clients. It's as if my larynx goes like this with some clients. Yeah. Skeletal pain, a bodily reaction to clients who've been abused, a revulsion or closing off to clients when we don't like them, when we don't want them to show up to therapy. Oh, did I just say that? The narcissists. There's a program, HBO have done a new in treatment show about a therapist in LA working online and face-to-face during lockdown. And she has a narcissistic client. And I really recommend that you watch the show because it's really great to raise awareness around diversity. But also, she really hates this guy. She doesn't like him. He's a narc. She doesn't like him. And it's what happens in the moment there. Okay, so knowing in our own bodies what's going on. Just, yeah, can I ask you to tap some of this stuff into chat? Because it'll be really useful for the group. We haven't got time to maybe discuss it in a larger. Sometimes I have borderline clients and I forget where I park my car, right? Or I can't breathe. Or my first ever client, I had a limp, like she had a limp, and my supervisor was a Gestalt therapist. And she had to say, no, actually, Lorna, this is before I knew about this. That's a thing. I had my clients limp. And how we begin to bring that into awareness. So it's fabulous information, but what's happening to our self-care with 4-5 clients a day? 3, 4, 5 days a week. So in Shaw's research, he said that therapists, and this applies to other people working with people, they felt that if they didn't look after themselves physically, they would become ill from their work. Many of them referred to colleagues who would become very ill or stop practicing through ill health. Clearly, there's an important issue for therapists to consider, and I mean coaches, yoga teachers in all of this, right? Because as one therapist said, this is a really costly way of making a living. to allow myself to be so impacted by somebody, to allow myself to know somebody to that degree, and therefore to know myself to that degree. I mean, there's wonderful rewards as well, but there's a real cost. So just noticing who do you carry in your body, who impacts your nervous system, who's in your dreams, who are you holding at a weekend, who's in your thoughts, and why. So I'm really shining a light on the physical countertransference here. Yeah, and we can bring it into the work. We can really bring it into the work, and it's powerful. It's powerful, but I'm just highlighting that we have to really be careful with it and listen to it. So Pat Ogden said that clients do not project into a vacuum, and it's important to acknowledge that there's always a grain of truth in whatever the therapist is feeling. Just reflect on your clients. Who's coming to mind here? Who's coming to mind? Thus, the phenomenology of the experience in the consulting room is fundamental if we are to reap the methodical rewards of working with transference. It's powerful, right? And as soon as you start to notice that countertransference and maybe bring it into the work, it happens very fast. Ruth, it sounds like you know about this in your work, how fast this can go. When we work with the body, it happens fast. And again, I cover this in other workshops, and we need more time for this. But Boyson and Gerson talk very much about that space under the belly button as well. Okay, think about the vagus nerve, what's going on below the belly button here. Yeah, the second brain exists in our bowels. There's a lot more now about gut health, fantastic. Really thinking about those lower organs, what's going on, colitis, IBS. Yeah, you'll know this in your own work. What are you seeing? Yeah, and it's also what's going on for you. So I do need to make this a space for you to stay well. And just to mention, vicarious trauma, it's as if we're not allowed to say it. And look, we've all been through a huge trauma, right? It may be different levels depending on the lives that we've had. However, compassion fatigue and burnout is real, and it's relevant to all therapists, as it's the negative side of counselling. It's the negative side of being the wounded healer. And that's often unconscious. I know for me, I've had to really change in the last 6 weeks how I work, because all through lockdown, well, since August, I've been working face-to-face. So I've now had to reduce that and bring some different balance in and change how I'm working in different spaces for my own energy so I can regulate. And also the mimicry or the mirror neurons, it's more than just facial expressions and postures. And I'm going to actually ask you, especially trainees are trained to do this, to mirror. I need to ask you to do the opposite of that, and to sit back with your clients from next week and not lean in, and to sit back and to straighten your spine and to breathe, and to do that 4-6 breath, and to roll your shoulders back and to breathe. Yeah, because that mimicry happens on a cellular level, on the tissues and muscles of our bodies. So if we are working with traumatized people, which we all are, if we are working with people who are sick and diseased, we are going to, at that cellular level, begin to manifest that in our bodies. Okay, so the therapist's nervous system, your autonomic nervous system, will experience the changes with a client. So I need to ask you to take responsibility for that, because actually that mirroring is a major underlying function and risk for your fatigue, your vicarious trauma and burnout. Yeah. So really I'm shining a big bright light on that. So we don't have time to go into this. However, it's something to raise an awareness, maybe for the rest of the day when you're walking, when you're unpacking this. Kate brought this earlier, the example of the migraine. Just so, when can we separate what's yours, what's the client's, how's your window of tolerance impacted? Because it is. nobody's like invincible. Oh, I do this, I have a shower, I wear the color indigo. Rubbish. You know, this is at a much deeper level of work when we're working with the level of trauma that we are all now working with. So just to recap here, and we're going to do some movement now. I would like to just highlight the steps that we've sort of walked through here. And again, we've walked through at quite a pace. That we've got number 1, noticing your client's body. Number 2, bringing it into the client's awareness. So that's raising their awareness themselves. So they're becoming conscious of their breath, their body, what's happening before, what they need. And then finally, noticing your own body countertransference, your own stuff, your own breath, noticing what you need, how we then can bring that into the work, or also how we need to then really look at that and take a break, self-care, take a holiday, change our hours round, look what that is. Okay, so they're the 3 main takeaways that I'd like you just to, as a model, just to sit with when we're talking about body awareness. So we're going to do some movement now. Let's do some movement. We've got 15 minutes before lunch. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of trauma-informed yoga now. I'll just put Bezel on. No, I'm not. We're going to skip Bezel. I'll send you that video. And I'm going to ask you all to stand up. We're going to stop share. We're going to all stand up, have a little move. Move your chair. Okay. Everybody stand up. So we're going to just do, a few minutes of trauma-informed yoga, trauma-sensitive yoga. And I'm going to just ask you to have a little move from side to side. Have a little move from side to side. You're welcome to switch your camera off here, turn the video away, and you can just hear my voice. But I'm going to ask you all to stand up. Stand up, okay. And if you like, just coming to stillness. And when you're ready, noticing your spine lengthening, shoulders widening. I'm going to invite you just put some rolls in your shoulders. And can you make your knees soft? Can your knees be soft here? And if you like, and when you're ready, we're going to drop our chin to our chest. Just noticing a lengthening at the back of the neck. And when you're ready, taking the chin up to one side. So you may notice a lengthening at the side of the neck, under the jaw, into the shoulder, around the collarbone, bringing the chin back down, taking it up to the other side. You might have some clicks and pops. So just continue with this movement, just noticing, does one side feel a little different from the other? I'm going to invite you, if you like, to sip a little breath. At the top, just feel free to do what feels right for you when you bring the chin back down. And then up to the other side. Do this one more time. Take it down, up to the other side. And coming back to neutral. And if you like, and when you're ready, bringing our palms to our heart center. Palms to the heart center. And I want you to lean forward on your toes. Look at your toes. Lean on your toes, forward. Now pull back. Pull the belly button into the spine. Find your middle. Off to the left, off to the other side. Where's the middle? And the middle changes all the time. Middle changes. So just coming to a still spot, and we're going to inhale. Take the arms out to the side. You might want to put some wriggles in the wrists. There might be some clicks and pops. You choose what you feel free to do what's right for you. So you could bring circles into the wrists. And then we're going to exhale. Let the hands just land together. Look at the fingers landing. We'll do this 2 more times. Maybe bend the knees, soft knees. Inhale, squeezing the shoulder blades together. You could maybe notice the shoulders coming away from the ears, melting down the spine, so they're not squeezed up. Let them come down. When you're ready to exhale, watch the fingertips come together, let them land. And one more time, inhale. Take it wide. Just feel free to notice what your wrists and your fingers want to do. You might want to put some movement into your shoulders and let the hands come back together. Hands come back together. And if you like, and when you're ready, bringing your fingers onto your shoulders, fingers onto the shoulders, and beginning to make some circles. So if you have a chunky chalk on your elbow, okay, and feel free to maybe take one shoulder in one direction and experiment on the other side, so you're not stuck. You can choose. You might want to bring your head to one side. You could bring it onto the other side. And you may want to breathe in, exhale, connect the breath with the movement. Feel free to do and be curious about what feels best for you. What feels best for you. Slowly let that go. Begin to shake the arms, shake the legs, shake the legs. Bringing our hands to our hips. Just make some gentle circles with the hips. Just again, noticing any clicks and pops. We hold more tension in our hips than we do our shoulders, as we talked about earlier. And taking it in the other direction. Just notice when I go that way, I had a little bit of a strange hip pop. So just noticing that we've been sitting down for a while. And if you like, I want you to take your fingers and interlink them behind, rolling the shoulders away from the ears, and just gently pulling the arms back a little bit. So noticing that lengthening and at the back of the arms and the upper spine. And if you like, I'm going to invite you to lean forward a little bit, taking the arms up. You're welcome to lean a little further forward, taking the arms back, or just stay halfway. You can change what feels right for you. You're not stuck. So what feels good for you? Then wiggling your toes. I would like you to bend your knees, push through your feet, coming up to standing. Have a little move, figure of 8 on the tiptoes, figure of 8. Now on your heels, try it on your heels, figure of 8, inside of the feet. It may feel a bit weird, outside of the feet. Just which one felt more weird? Try it again. Okay. And if you like, when you're ready, come to standing. Now I'd like you to feel steady here. So rather than being on a tightrope like on Instagram, like they do on YouTube, we're not doing any of that. How can you feel steady? So I need to take my feet quite wide, hands on the hips. We're going to step forward with one foot and just adjust so we feel steady. And if you like, and when you're ready, bend the front knee, take the arms up. I'm going to invite you to choose by taking the arms wider. What feels more comfortable for you? Can you breathe here? Take the gaze forward, up, just noticing what feels best for your neck. I'm going to invite you to breathe here. Maybe sip a little more breath at the top. And slowly release. Step back. And we'll do that on the other side. So planting one foot down, stepping forward and being steady. Be steady. Hands on the hips. We're going to inhale, bend the front knee. How can you create more space at the front of your body right now? And when you're ready, step back. And we're going to close by really feeling steady on your feet. And we're going to take 3 breaths here. We're going to bend our knees. Inhale. Palms together or wide. Choose what feels right for you right now. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Final time. Take the stretch your body needs right now. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just taking a moment just to check in with what you need right now. And if you need to do some other movement, just take some breaths. And just come back. We've got about 5 minutes left. So just coming back to a comfortable seated position. Comfortable seated position. And I've got about another 10 days worth of information that I'd love to share with you, but we've only got 5 minutes left. And I also think today, where we are with lockdown and as a community needing to talk to each other, it's important that we have spoken to each other. So we've got a few minutes left for questions, and I'm just going to let you know that next week I'll send you an edited video, your CPD certificate, some notes, additional reading, and if there is anything that has sort of like a little match, so, oh, I'm interested in that, or I'm interested in that, please follow that up. Listen to your body. Please follow that up. It's really, really important. And if you are interested in more the trauma yoga and how to work with the body with more practical tools, I have a workshop next month. It's over 2 days. It's like 4 hours on 2 days with the Wimbledon Guild. So I'll send you information on that if that's useful. So we can go to questions, or you can pop them in chat, and Zena will be able to help us a little bit with this, because she's great at stuff like that. Hopefully she is.
We have a question from earlier that we're hoping to fit in, Lorna, about countertransference and whether that can be a parallel process. So again, please, I think it was Sarah, please feel free to jump in if you want to add to that. But I took that to mean the client feeling something that belongs to the therapist. Is that correct?
So for this, Sarah, countertransference in this frame is what you are feeling as the coach or as the therapist. It's what's going on for you. And then being able to split that. Is that your stuff? Is it the client's stuff? That experience. And then what are we then able to then bring that from the unconscious? It's then manifested as a phenomenon in your body. How we're then able to bring that into consciousness and into the work. Like the example you said about the guy with his eyes down. Okay, so I hope that's useful. Great question. Great question. Any more?
Just a quick one, Lorna. I do stuff with IBS. I'm just wondering if you can signpost me, because I've tried hypnotherapy and counselling and stuff, and I'm just kind of stuck with what to do.
And are you aware, Heidi, that this is linked emotionally?
Yeah, I think, yeah. So, for example, my nan passed away 2.5 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. A few days later, I'll have a flare-up, and that will last for like 10 days. So I definitely know there's that emotional link.
And are you able to take this to therapy?
I have done, but it's not really been a great discussion. It hasn't really been, maybe the therapist hasn't really felt like exploring it with me. I don't know. I had hypnotherapy for it, which was it was explored a little bit more, and then had the hypnotherapy. But again, I just didn't feel connected with my therapist and with that therapist either.
I'd say you need to find a therapist you feel connected with. There's a lot more than there used to be, and there's a lot of them on this call now as well, on this course. To find a therapist who's working more somatically, more embodied, and knowing the link. It's well documented, the links with IBS, emotion, anxiety, and what happens. We've just been talking about it today. Was that kind of the below the belly stuff that we were talking about? Yeah.
I echo that, Heidi. I wouldn't rule out therapy as something that could be beneficial. It just might be finding the right therapist that has that awareness. And and I think there are therapists that will talk about their specialities and areas they work in. Are you a therapist or trained?
Yeah, I've just qualified this month.
Right. Are you in the counsellor staff room Facebook group?
No.
If you're on Facebook, if you join that and ask in there, it's really, really, I run that group. It's really helpful. Lots of therapists very willing to help.
That's great. Thanks, Zena, for that. That's great. Heidi, do that. That Zena's face group, and for everyone, I'm sure if you don't know it, counsellor staff room on Facebook. If you join that, Heidi, Zena will help you with that.
Thank you.
And I guess we're running out of time as well. And there was another question, but I will say Lorna is in that group as well. So if you do, if you're a therapist, you know, and you want to ask a question, I'll tag Lorna in. Lorna's always happy to join in as well as one of the members supporting each other.
Okay. So we're going to have to wrap up now. If there's any burning questions, email them to me. You have my email. And I just want to take a minute to ask you just to have an exhale, have a breath, check out what you need now. And also, I want to thank you for your interest in this subject. You can probably tell I'm slightly passionate about it. Thank you just for your interest. I used to be a little bit on my own as a unicorn, and now I'm with a load of unicorns all this time, and hopefully we can meet up in real life at one point. So really follow your interest with this. The work is very powerful, and I'd like you just to think about yourself, who that person was you thought of at the beginning. If something comes up for you that you may need to speak to, a supervisor, a friend, just if something's come up with you with the material. And yeah, I'd love it if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, shameless plug. It basically makes me happy when I see the numbers go up. And I put lots of videos on there about this, about working with the body, about getting people into therapy, raising awareness about this. It's called the Mind Movement. And I've done a little review of that in treatment show. That's my latest video up there. So yeah, that would be wonderful. And I want to thank everyone today. So I just want to, we can say goodbye. You might want to pop something in the chat, but thank you for being brave, sharing, working in the breakout groups. It's been wonderful. So thank you so much. Okay, so I just want to say bye and enjoy the rest of your day. Really enjoy that. Bye, everybody. Maybe can we unmute and just say bye?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Lorna. Thank you, everybody.